Wow. Greg Norman, welcome to Straight Talk, mate.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Looking forward to it. So I keep pushing myself to understand, is this the right thing to do? We can transition over to live, right?
Yeah, let's talk about live, because
it's the same thing.
How did you reconcile that?
Look, I wanted to do, okay. I felt as one of the best players in the world at the time, we never achieved the financial place we should have achieved.
Yes, we mean golfers.
We mean golfers, yeah. Yep. Best players in the world. And why is that? Because I've been around enough to see what the institutions have been doing to the game of golf. And as a player who puts bums on seats and people come through the gates, no different what Rory McIlroy did down Royal Melbourne, you deserve the opportunity to maximize your earnings. You deserve to create generational wealth, not the institutions. So in my day, we didn't own our IP, if I had my own IP, would I be a lot wealthier than what I'd be today? 100%, right? But we had to sign all those rights away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, every January we had to sign a form to play on the PGA Tour. You had to give up all your rights.
Which meant they could market you.
Yes. Yeah. I got no residuals.
You didn't get a percentage of it?
No residuals. Nothing. What we got was the right to play a network deal. A vast percentage of it would go to our prize money. Well, the best players, any player, you got out of your performance is what you got out. My performance on the golf course dictated what my endorsement deals would be.
In other words, if you won or got second or third, you got more money. But if you didn't.
You didn't.
But let's say everybody went to watch you, though, irrespective of whether you play well or not, you're saying there's nothing in that for you. Because there's not a lot in that for you because you didn't get in the top whatever.
Yeah, the performance I put in is my whatever that reward came out of that performance, right? And I didn't like that. I did because that's what I was doing, but I didn't like it to create generations.
Sort of a bit unfair.
Very unfair.
Yeah.
Right? So when I started transitioning into the business world and I created the Shark logo and I created all that, I went, okay, this is my only avenue to go. My IP was still over here. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do the World Tour in 1993 for the players, to make more money, to have an equity share in that World Tour, which I offered them. Live was the same thing. The reason why I went to Live was to give the players an opportunity to create generational wealth. Just look at Bryson DeChambeau today. If he didn't come to Live, he wouldn't have his IP to do what he's doing on YouTube. Massive, massive account for him. I'm so happy for Bryson DeChambeau, but that only happened because we gave him that right. Yes, we paid him a retainer. Yes, he's the captain of his team. Yes. He's got to play an X amount of tournaments. We get paid for that, okay? But when he's not doing a live event and he's in blue jeans and a T-shirt, happy days. You go make your money as much as you want to make. It wasn't that way. When I was a member of the PGA Tour, I only could get 3 exemptions to travel around the world to supplement my income.
Wow. Three.
And I had to get permission from the PGA Tour to do that. So, and back in the day, Seve Ballesteros and Seve from Europe, Spain, right, and myself in Australia, I always wanted to come home to promote Australian golf. But I had to get a release from the PGA Tour. So Seve was the instigator of this. He created the home exemption rule, where if you're an international player, you could actually go home and promote your tour without having to apply for a release. Simple, but so stupid and restrictive for the institutions to do that to us. But they wanted the Denali, right? That's why they wanted the money. So I wanted to break that.
That's pretty sort of rebellious. Is that an Australian trait, do you reckon?
Me doing that?
Yeah.
I'm a disruptor. I see weaknesses, and
is it weakness, unfairness? Is it weakness because of unfairness?
It was unfairness. Truly was unfair to the players, not just Greg Norman in the day, to everybody. You think if Jack Nicklaus had his own IP when he first came out there, and Arnold Palmer, they'd be billionaires. Billionaires. And yet here today, the institutions are making a lot of money. And now with Live, I gave the players that opportunity. And look what's happened to the PGA Tour. Without Live, What Live did was it brought private equity into our sport. First time ever in 54 years, outside money got invested in. That created an ROI, an opportunity to invest. Production, marketing, hospitality, entertainment, fandom, all these new places popped up, innovation. Because of the investment dollars that came into Live, that's where we put it, right? We had to grow. The thing that bothers me the most about it is the perception that I was trying to destroy the PGA Tour. That is the total opposite. We were trying to work within the ecosystem. Competition's a wonderful thing. PGA Tour is 72 holes. Now Live is 72 holes. Back in those days, Live was entertainment, concerts, different hospitality, music, all that stuff, plus team. So the ecosystem was crying out for that, to have a counterbalance. And we proved it right. But the general public or perception of, or certain media who probably had to take the tack that they had to take for certain reasons, created this angst out there in the world of golf.
But that's how media works, though, as you know.
Yeah, exactly.
They've got to find something.
But now look at the PGA Tour. I just complimented Brian Rolap.
Yeah.
Why? Because private equity came into the PGA Tour because of Live. $3 billion, $1.5 billion has already come in. Another $1.5 billion to come in. So all of a sudden now the players control the policy board. Now all of a sudden players have control of their own destiny. Hallelujah. Yes. That's what I wanted in 1993, us to have control of our own destiny and the institutions. It's the PGA Tour is the professional golfers tour. It's not the professional institution
tour. I like that. Yeah.
So I go, gosh, finally. So Stillwater's run deep. I've finally gotten what I believe is the right thing for the players. And in turn, it's going to be the right thing for golf. Now, PGA Tour and Live, will they come together? I don't know. I really don't care. It doesn't matter. They're both in their own space, both very happy about what they're doing. And look what's happening with PGA Tour now. They're reducing down to potentially 20 tournaments a year. Duh. And players now have control with their equity. They have a piece of it. Duh.
Yeah.
Private equity. Duh. All these things are like, please sit back and look at this in a neutral, balanced way about what has actually transpired over the last couple of years and what had transpired for the previous 54.
And I think for golfers, like look at Cam, for example, he's in a much better place than he's ever been before. And a young guy like him, putting him in charge of a team, captaining his own team, when he sat right there in the seat some time ago, like I couldn't believe the maturity, which he probably would never have got out of the Live hadn't have existed. Like he wouldn't have got that sort of opportunity to be part of it all and to lead a team, etc. Do you think it developed him more as a person as well as a golfer?
100%. Because as an individual athlete, you are represented by an agency and you have a manager or an agent representing you. Every deal we do is a transaction, so you're a pass-through entity. And that pass-through entity is if I sign with X company for a 3-year deal with a 2-year option, depending on my KPI performance on the golf course, finishing the top 5 in the world or number 1 in the world, if I don't hit those, I'm out. So you become very much, like I said, a pass-through entity. And so you have very little to build off except your own skill set and your own longevity.
You become
yourself.
inventory. You become inventory.
Inventory, exactly. So my role when I took the role of CEO was to talk to each one of the captains about understanding what it's like to build brand equity. Now, as an individual, when you're representing a corporation, you're not building any equity in any brand, not yours, because you are transaction with that corporation. Great, you're getting paid for it. Great, you're doing a commercial or whatever it is, advertising. Great, but what is the long-term value? It's short-term returns with very little long-term value. So when I sat down with them, I said, guys, you've got to understand what the value of your brand and your team truly represents on a global basis. And with Cam, I had a serious conversation with him one-on-one. And it's all about making sure you put the right people around you, because you can't do it yourself. You can't play golf and be the best golfer in the world at the highest level and run a team, as well as understand marketing and branding and all this stuff. I said, each and every one of these guys, I said, you got to put a team around you. We'll subsidize you to a degree, but you got to pay us back. So we did that. And Mike, you'd be surprised of all the captains, how many of them really embraced it and how many of them went straight over their head, right? And, it's no slight on agencies or agents. It's just the fact that's the DNA. That's what we all grew up in. So when you sit back and you see the opportunity with these respective teams that Live have today, you go, these guys are really going to create generational wealth. Example, IPL. Kerry Packer, what he did with cricket, got away from Test cricket, created this whole new sporting dynamic. Was it private equity? Probably was, because it was Kerry's money, right? He invested in the sport because he could see the long-term value of what he could do with India, Pakistan, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. Go down the list of all the iconic countries who love to play Test cricket, right? But how do you really monetize that? Not for the institutions, but for the players. Boom. So Kerry sat on my shoulder every day for 4 years, especially early on. I would talk to him, and I'd think about the conversation I had with Kerry. So he was my, rest in peace, KP, but he was my kind of like my guiding light.
You would say, what would you do, Kerry? What would he do?
What would you do? And I would think about our conversation, and then I'd remember back. I'd go back and Google search what happened with cricket. And now look at fast forward to what I mentioned about IPL. What's the team selling for? $600, $700, $800 million in India.
And look at the guys like Ricky Ponting and Dave Warner, the amount of money they're making.
I love it.
It's so good for them,
It's so good for them, right? For their families. They're the ones who committed to sacrifice to, as a kid, I want to be this. To get there, it's impossible except for a few, right? So those few should receive the bulk of the reward for their family. I'm so happy for that. But that was Kerry. Kerry broke the back of that. Now we are doing the same in golf, right? So happy for these captains out there and for our investor to be able to go get that return on that investment dollar over time. It's not going to happen like that. Like any startup, Mark, you know that. Any startup, you got to put a lot of CapEx in the beginning before you get your return, right? So it becomes capital intensive in the beginning to get it off the ground. And then once you start getting it commercialized and all that stuff, now you start seeing the outflows being offset by the inflows. And now you start seeing your LRPs going out a little bit better. And now you can start seeing 4, 5, 7 years down the line. You go, okay, now the thing starts to take a bit of a turn to the upside. So from a business perspective, a sports perspective, to see where we are today, PGA Tour, DP World Tour, Live, golf is the benefactor. And if golf is the benefactor, the players are the benefactor. And, seeing what happened to the Australian Open, brought back great memories, right? That's the enthusiasm that people have. Seeing what happens with Live in Adelaide and what the Premier is doing in Adelaide, he's investing dollars for the future of Adelaide. Our economic impact for Live is significant because when you think about it, when Live comes to a city anywhere in the world, we own the players. Or I should say they own the players because I'm not involved with Live anymore. Live owns the players. Live owns the production. Live owns the marketing. Live owns this. So you're a plug and play. So all that cost, and it's a significant cost every week to bring that to wherever you go in the world, is not on any institution or state government or anything like that. It's there. So now is the opportunity to work together with government, with locals, to monetize that situation, whether it's VIK or whether it's investment dollars. And now you see what we've done in Adelaide. Oh my gosh, the economic impact that we brought to Adelaide is significant. So that's why Premier Malinauskas can go, okay, I can invest into the future. I can do a long-term contract with Liv because I see the economic impact each and every year that we can keep building on. So, the smart people get it, and the smart people aren't wrong. And in 4.5 years now, that I've been involved or was involved with Live, not one person told me I was crazy. Not one. I walked this morning before coming here, having breakfast in the hotel. 2 people came up. Thank you, what you did for golf with Live. Thank you. Not one person in all the years I've been around, flying around the world, has come up to me and said, "You're an absolute asshole. You've done this and you've done that. You destroyed the game of golf. You've done this." Not one person in the public world has ever said that to me. So I go, okay, be true to yourself. I stayed true to myself. I delivered. I had a 4-year contract employment agreement. I'm happy I did what I did. Do I have regrets? 0. Would I do it again? Yes, but I do it a little bit differently. So it just allows me to walk away and say, yes.
Andy Herndon, welcome to Straight Talk, mate.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Take me through that process, and then what happens at the end of the night. So how do you feel?
So there's a mild to medium case of anxiety the whole day.
The whole day?
Yeah, because you're chasing your tail. It always feels like you're chasing your tail.
What are you anxious about, though?
Not being ready on time.
Not having the meals ready on time?
Correct. So right. if you're not ready for the start of that service for lunch, you don't have what we call mise en place, which is a French word for everything in place. If you don't have your mise en place ready, by the time that lunch service starts, you're absolutely stuffed.
So the waiter walks in and he puts up the order, whatever it is, however that works. Like, what's everyone doing? As soon as it happens, like, starter's gun goes off.
Yeah. So the chef will call the ticket, and if it's part of your section, so kitchens are broken down into sections, and if it's something that's come off your section, then you know, and then it has to be orchestrated in a really timely fashion, right? So there might be a dish. If your table orders 4 dishes, it might come from 2 or 3 different sections. So someone who's got the longest lead time will kind of dictate that pace. All right, we're going to be up in 12 minutes, and you have to know, okay, that's up in 12 minutes. My dish is only going to take 7 minutes to cook, so I have to mentally click that, and then start my prep, 3 or 4 minutes in, so that we all meet on the pass at the same time.
Oh my God. So you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to have my thing ready in 7 minutes when it's going to take them 12 minutes because my meal is going to be cold or not right, whatever's going to be.
Yeah.
So, and is there someone there conducting the orchestra?
Yeah. It depends on the structure of the kitchen. In a big London kitchen, and kitchens here as well, there's someone running the pass, a senior chef, so a head chef or a sous chef who's running the pass and running the orchestra. And tickets come in and they're kind of running, and they're also yelling out checks. So if you've got a crab dish on, you'd be like, Andy, you've got 15 crab dishes on order right now. I need 3 of them up in 4 minutes, type of thing.
What happens if you fuck it up? What happens if you're making crab and you go, oh shit, I put the wrong sauce on there.
Yeah.
And then everyone else is ready.
Yeah.
Because the other 5 dishes are ready.
Yeah.
What the fuck happens?
Well, back then you got a bollocking.
Yeah, right. They give you
chef,
heaps.
I'm going to be late, and you stuff everyone else's order up. Yeah. So the whole tables, everything gets started again. So you cop the bollocking.
Oh, they have to start the meals again,
depending on where they're at. But if they're almost finished it, they might be able to save it, but they might not. They might, because stuff just keeps cooking, right? Residual heat keeps cooking things. So.
Yeah. So and then it fucks it up. It ruins it.
And you let the whole team down.
Yeah. So and then. What happens when the sous chef, whatever the dude is conducting the orchestra is called, comes in and gives you a bollocking, as you said? Do you feel like you punch them then? Say, just fuck off. Don't talk to me like that way. I mean, because you can't pick people's personalities.
No.
I mean, is there blues?
I mean, I've definitely seen punch-ons in kitchens.
Oh,
yes.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
but yeah, I mean, you just cop it, and I think that's you build resilience, and the people that build resilience quick back then, you kind of went through the ranks quicker, and it's about, it's different to how it is now. You kind of can't act like that, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. So you get through that one, then you have a little bit of a break, and your cortisol sort of starts to settle down a little bit, and all your adrenaline starts to move back into wherever it goes to, probably your liver, and it would get and then a recirculate, then it starts all over again for dinner.
Yeah.
And then at this stage, your nervous system is exhausted, and it's like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. But I've got mates who've been chefs and cooking, and they all went out. They used to go out.
Yep.
Is that normal?
Absolutely.
Let's go for a drink.
There's a reason that drug and alcohol abuse is rife in our industry, and it's because of those levels of, stress, anxiety, and you come off a massive high, whether it's a good high or a bad high, and your adrenaline's pumping, and you need something to calm you down.
So you need to, as I understand it, because, many, 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 many years ago when I was much younger, around this area here, there used to be various famous bars that didn't sort of start kicking off till midnight.
Yeah.
And I used to often frequent them, usually on a weekend. But and then I'd run into mates of mine, blokes I knew who were chefs, and also musicians.
Yeah.
From pubs and stuff, and they'd all be just going out. Like I'd already had a skinful by that stage, but they'd be just going out, and but they were ready to go.
Yeah.
Your new little unit community.
Mm-hmm.
Does everyone say, let's all go together?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you end up socializing with other people from the bars, the musos, everyone that kind of works nights, because you don't start. You're right. You don't start till midnight, and you'll run through until the sun comes up.
Yeah. So
then get an hour's kip and go back to work.
What did that do to you?
Oh, I mean, I suffered massively from alcoholism and drug abuse for a long time. For 15 years, I drank every day.
What was the drug of choice? What were we talking about, Coke or something like that?
Yeah, Coke, but mainly alcohol, because it's just easy to get.
Yeah.
So you absolutely would have a crack on the recreational stuff on the weekends, but it was the booze that got me in the end.
So were you conscious that I got to go and have a drink because in the beginning, let's talk at the beginning part. Were you conscious that I got to go and have a drink because I just need to wind down? Was that the theory?
I think it was subconsciously that, but it was more so just to be part of the crew, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's doing it. So you just follow, I was young, I was 16, 17 when I started working in restaurants. So you just do what the older guys are doing. And then it just becomes habit really quickly.
Yeah, then you become the older guy.
Yeah. And then you start setting the trend. And it's not even at the end as well. It's even in the middle. So we'd do double shifts, and you'd clean down after lunch, and everyone would go to the pub, and have 3 or 4 pints and then go back to work.
They don't drink whilst they're cooking or anything, do they?
Yeah, in the end, you start doing it because if you go and have a beer after lunch service, and then you start sobering up during dinner service,
no good.
So you'll go and find some cooking wine or whatever, or you'll be mates with the bar, the person running the bar, and you'll be like, mate, I'll give you a bowl of chips if you
send me vodka.
Yeah, so they'd send you a coffee cup out, just be full of vodka and just have a shot. And
how sort of intensity and hectic did it get for you?
I got real bad. Yeah.
I don't understand. What does that mean by that?
So I called myself a high functioning alcoholic, but it was 3 or 4 bottles of wine a day.
A day?
Yeah. Pretty comfortably. But there was
per day.
Per day, yeah. But you're still going up to work every day. You're still showing up for everything. But then you kind of, once you get to a certain point in life, you go, I can't, there's no way my body can handle me doing this forever.
How did you know? Like, what were the signs that?
I just think you just kind of, you just know.
How do you get out of bed?
Well, yeah, you get out of bed and you start drinking again. That's what happens.
In bed?
No, but as soon as you get up.
As soon as you wake up?
Yeah.
Oh, so it got that bad?
Yeah, it got that bad.
Yeah. But so effectively drinking all the time?
All the time.
So you turn to work drunk. Not drunk, but with booze in your guts?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you become so good at your craft that it doesn't really affect anything.
No, and there's managing it, right? So you don't show up drunk, but you have a little bit, just to kind of to get rid of the hangover effectively, and then you just kind of level it all day, and then you can
go again.
You can send it at night. But
was there an event or something that made you decide that's it? I'm going to give it. Did you give it up in one shot?
Yeah, I think I'd known for a long time that at some point that I'm an all or nothing type of person. So I was like, I'm not.
That's good, actually.
Yeah, I'm not one that could go. I can't I can just have 1 or 2 drinks. I knew at some point I'd just have to stop drinking. But when I started kind of becoming a bit of a dick to my partner, that's what was that catalyst to me to go, okay, now it's time to sort this out.
Yeah. So you at some stage you said, you just go cold turkey.
No, and so I did what most people do. Well, a lot of people do is when I was in trouble and realised I was in trouble, I called my mum. I said, Mum, I need some help here. And really lucky that I had a good support network around me. And so they put me in touch with a rehab centre. And they actually said, we can't get you in for a couple of days for whatever reason, but don't stop drinking. Because the amount that I was drinking.
Don't stop drinking.
No, until they can manage it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so they just continue drinking what you're doing. We'll come and get you. They came to my door 3 or 4 days later, and they picked me up, and they took me in, and they pump you full of some kind of drug to basically knock you out, and they wean you off that. Alcohol's really dangerous to go if you're drinking at a really high level. It's really dangerous to just stop. Your body can go into shock.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's quite bad. Similar to heroin in that respect.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've been sober ever since?
Yeah, 8 years.
Congratulations.
Thank
well
you.
done.
Yeah.
What difference has it made to your life?
It's night and day. Yeah, it's night and day. I don't even think about it anymore. I never really have. Like, it doesn't bother me. People drinking around me. There's booze around me all the time. I have no interest in drinking. It was, but I also don't regret it. Like, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
but yeah, I have no interest. But my life has done nothing but exponentially get better since I stopped drinking.
Have you? We're going to talk about in a moment. Your YouTube sort of sensation, but like, have you these days look back and look at all the, well-known chefs who are still running restaurants?
Yeah,
and we all know all their ups and downs. They could even be on television. Well-known on television, and we know some of those guys. And think to yourself, the restaurant game's it's fucked. It's one of the hardest games in the world.
Yeah.
You got tenants, staff. You got a landlord. You got staff. You got inventory,
high cost of goods,
and fit out costs.
Yep.
Shit, all this shit. Electricity, power, fucking whatever. And then you might get fadded out. So you might be a fad for a month, and then someone else opens up down the corner who's the new fad. Do you ever look back at that and say, oh "My God, what a shitty industry"? Like, I mean, hard. Shitty. I don't mean bad, because we all use it, but like a hard industry, a hard game.
Absolutely, mate. And it's one of those things as you grow older, and we'll maybe talk about how I got into social media later, but it was that, like, part of it was like I didn't want to work for anyone else. I want to work for myself. And I stood back and thought, well, what do I know how to do? I know how to run restaurants. So I'm not going to go and like start a restaurant and earn a salary for working 120 hours a week. Like, it just doesn't make sense, right?
And run all the risk as well.
Run all the risk. I'm happy to work hard, work my ass off. But if there's no reward to that, then what's the point of doing it? But I still love the industry, and I fully understand why people do it.
So if we pull that apart for a second, so at some stage in your life, you've said I love cooking.
Yep.
I love people enjoying my food.
Yep.
Two important things.
Yep.
I love being creative.
Yep.
In the form of cooking. That's my brush and canvas. I'm happy to work hard.
Yep.
I don't want to be running a restaurant. Is that what made you decide to get into the social media side of cooking? Let's call it that.
Yeah.
Social media cooking.
Yeah. I was.
Did you make that decision though? Like, was that I'm going to do this?
Yeah, it was. It was through adversity. So COVID happened, and I was running a really large group of restaurants that was owned by Emirates, so the airline. So we ran 100 venues around Australia and New Zealand. Wow! And I lost my job really quickly in COVID. So we were living in Melbourne. So me and my partner decided we weren't going to get jobs anytime soon. So we drove to the Sunshine Coast, where she's from, and I sat around licking my wounds for 6 months, thinking, this is the worst thing in the world. And so I started looking at what I could do. What was the next step? And it was that conscious decision that I didn't want to work for anyone else anymore, because I felt like there was actually...
That's important.
Yeah. Self-employed. And then I realized pretty quickly that I didn't want the risk of running restaurants.
So that you excluded that. That's out.
Yeah.
You worked at what you're good at.
Yeah. And I didn't have huge amounts of capital. So I didn't have access to 50 million bucks or anything like that. So I wasn't going to do, because the other option is that.
Thank God you didn't, because you might have put it in a restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. True.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah. But, there was the other option. I really love kitchenware and cookware. And I was like, well, I kind of like kitchenware and cookware, but I don't have heaps of capital. It's a really capital expensive business to get into. So I thought, and I watched a lot of content. I watched these guys like Josh Wiseman and Babish and Nick Giovanni and all these guys, big YouTubers and stuff. And I thought, I know how to cook. Now, these cameras can't be that hard to figure out. Like, I'll start doing that. So I started making TikToks.
Like in the COVID period?
Yeah.
That was like sort of during COVID?
That was 2020, the end of COVID, 2021, end of 2021.
So, but just tell me how you start something like this. Like, well, like, do you remember your first day?
Yeah. I was living in my in-laws' house, and I just thought, to figure out this TikTok thing, I need to have a hook pretty quickly. And
what was your hook?
I can't remember. I know what happened. It took us put us to the stratosphere. But the first video I think I did was just like making fish tacos, and all I did was just make tacos and film it. And posted it, and of course it got like 3 views. No one watched it, and then you just kind of refine it. You go, how do I get better? How do I get it better? Then you start learning about hooks and stuff like that.
Then you start learning about the social medium.
Yeah,
you got to learn about the medium itself.
Correct.
Like what works.
Correct. Yeah.
Or what have I got to do to make it work for me? Tony Abbott, welcome to Straight Talk.
Mark, it's wonderful to be with you.
But what do you think about leadership today? I mean, what do you think Cecil Rhodes would think about? And of course, Rhodesia is now called Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
What would he now think about leadership outside of the Rhodes Scholarships? But think about leadership, and what does it mean? What does leadership mean? I don't know what it means to someone like you.
Yeah, okay. Well, a leader is someone who can make a decision that involves people other than simply himself or herself, and can make the decision stick. So a leader's got to know his or her own mind, has got to be capable of turning thoughts into resolutions, communicating successfully those resolutions to others, and encouraging, inspiring, persuading others to join in with those resolutions. That's essentially leadership. And whether whether leadership is exercised in persuading your mates that we should go and see film X rather than film Y, whether leadership is exercised in getting together a group of people to go on a holiday, whether it's starting a business, whether it's leading a country, leadership is exercised in all sorts of different ways by all sorts of different people. But without leadership, nothing happens.
So where does courage fit in leadership? That virtue, because I just don't think we talk about virtues enough. But where does the virtue of courage fit into leadership for, say, running a country? Let's not decide who's going to go to the movies. Let's just say we're running a country because that's your area of expertise, or certainly your former area of expertise. And you mentioned a number of other former prime ministers in the same category, or leaders of the opposition. You would have seen common traits. Was courage a common trait?
I think courage is an important part of good leadership. I think courage is pretty rare. It was Lord Slim who said moral courage is a far higher and rarer virtue than physical courage. It was our old friend Father Emmett Costello who used to frequently quote an obscure French cardinal that I'd never heard of, but nevertheless Emmett loved his phrase.
Emmett Costello being the Jesuit priest from Review?
Yes. Emmett kept quoting this Cardinal PA from the 19th century who said, prudence is everywhere, courage is nowhere, we will all die of prudence. And I must say, I think that's quite a useful reminder that prudence is a virtue, but it's not the only virtue. Courage is equally and no less important.
So, because I will come back to your history in a second because I want to know more about it. But just on that topic, I think it was Aristotle said that there was courage was he talked about the golden mean, which is the point between reckless or fearless. Fearless, reckless, or I should say, which is down one end of the scale, and on the other end of the scale was, you were a coward.
Yeah.
And courage was the gold mean. Somewhere in between, not in the middle, but somewhere, and different for everybody.
Yeah.
But if you're becoming a leader of a country, it would seem to me that finding that golden mean as a leader of the country, as a prime minister, leading your party. In this case, in Australia, in America's leading the country, a bit different. But do you think that we've lost that courage a little bit?
Well, if you look at our political leadership, Mark, I think that it peaked in the Hawke-Howard era. Hawke and Howard, each in his own way, they were both very, very effective and quite brave prime ministers. Hawke defied Labor orthodoxy. to, I guess, deregulate the labour market, to privatise or begin privatisation processes, to reduce tariffs, to keep the unions more or less in their lane. And then Howard did things like introduce work for the dole. He brought in tax reform. He reformed the waterfront. Hawke did most of his reforms with the support of the coalition. So at one level, they were easier to do because they weren't opposed in the parliament the way Howard's reforms were ferociously opposed by the Labor Party. But nevertheless, I wouldn't underestimate the courage that both Hawke and Keating showed in the economic sphere, because frankly, it's a very unusual Labor leader who can get out of the old Marxist capital versus Labor paradigm and appreciate that workers do best when the boss does well too. So we had a quarter century of good leadership, really excellent, outstanding leadership under Hawke and Howard. I think it's been of lesser quality since then, and that's not because the individuals are necessarily of lesser calibre, but I suspect there's certainly been less courage, and I think in some instances less character.
And then how much do you think courage is, or courage derives from what is possible? So it would seem to me, particularly these days, with the ability to know what people think, polling, and the ability to try and satisfy as many people as you possibly can in order to stay in government, because if you're not in government, you can't make change. How much do you think courage is being diluted by more information and not as ideologically based as it would have maybe in the past?
I think political leadership is more difficult today because social media and the 24/7 news cycle means that you tend to be more distracted. I mean, in Howard's time, you basically had to worry about the nightly newses and the morning's papers, but you're constantly being besieged by the media today. So I think in one sense, leadership is more difficult, but what do you want in a leader? You want character, you want conviction, you want courage, you want judgment, and frankly, you also want luck. Some people have it, some people don't. But I think that far too often these days, politicians consult the polls, they consult the focus group, and they allow themselves not to give the public what the public needs, but they try to give the public what the public wants. Now, we're all human, so we tend to want to have our cake and eat it too. And the truth is, you can't mostly do that. You've got to make choices, often hard choices. And in the Hawke-Howard era, there was a greater tendency on the part of our leadership to say, look, this is what's right for the country. This is the argument in favour. And they would prosecute the case. That's much less common. I mean, let's take the vexed subject of climate change, for instance. Now, the Liberal Party is having a huge internal discussion at the moment about energy and climate policy. One of the reasons why we are so angst-ridden over abandoning the straitjacket of net zero is because we think the public have been totally, if you like, they've basically been brainwashed into accepting that there is a climate crisis. Now, I don't think there is a climate crisis. I think reducing emissions is nice to do, but I don't think it's something that should dominate our policy making as it does right now. I think what the coalition should be prepared to do is to say, look, frankly, net zero is leading us down a path of economic ruin. We have to abandon it. My former colleagues are very worried that doing this will cost them seats and prevent them from winning the so-called teal seats back. But if it's actually right, I think the important thing is to make the case and argue it day in, day out between now and the next election. And if you fail and you still believe it's right, keep arguing it. I mean, take the GST, for instance. The GST, or at least a general goods and services tax, was first proposed by Keating at the time of the tax summit in 1985. The Prime Minister, Hawke, decided it was a step too far. That was when, I suppose, Hawke's caution and judgment trumped Keating's innovation and political courage. Then the GST was proposed by John Hewson, as you'd remember, Mark, in the Fight Back package, and Keating, having supported it back in 85, ferociously opposed it in the 93 election, and then eventually the GST was brought in because John Howard had the guts to take it to the people in the 1998 election. So the GST was an idea that even its proponents eventually shied away from. Then it was an idea that was ferociously fought about, initially unsuccessfully, finally successfully, and now it's totally accepted. So it is possible to put forward policy initiatives that you think are right, but which are fiercely resisted, and you just argue your way through to success. And it is the mark of a successful country that it can make tough decisions, and that its leaders can successfully persuade people to change their minds on things. And I think that if you believe, as I do, that reducing emissions is no more than nice to do, if you think that the important thing for the long-term well-being of our country is economic growth, more jobs, more successful and more dynamic industries, all of which requires an abundance of cheap and reliable power, all of which requires continuing our mineral resources, agricultural, etc. development. If you think this is necessary, well, and if you think that the net zero straitjacket is gravely impeding all of this, well, then you should be prepared to argue the case.
And that's leadership.
That's leadership.
Matt and Jack, welcome to Straight Talk, boys.
Thank you.
How do you two does one cut one solely? In other words, are you both good at the same thing, or is one good at something else and the other one's not so good?
That's a good question.
Oh, it's like, I feel like we do even each other out. Like, say for instance, I'm really keen to do something. He'll be like, nah. Like we make sure we get to the right decision. So I'll be like, say for instance,
someone's a pessimist, someone's an optimist in a certain situation.
Yeah.
But you swap it around.
Yeah.
Always
and
swap.
if he's
It's
really
weird.
keen, I'm like, well, I don't think we should do this. Just so we really understand what we're about to go into. So it's like, he's like, the pros of this, we can do, we can make this, and this could take us to here, and we can make this kind of whatever. And then I'll be like, but then, this might happen. Like they might not like that, and
Which being a realist.
different brand deals.
But
might
is then
not
a
come.
reverse if you come up with the idea? Because is one of you more the ideas person?
Mm,
Not really, eh?
both. Honestly, both.
But-
It's we're like 50-50 to a T, and it's not like someone's sitting at the computer while the other one's out in the street selling.
Yeah.
It's not like that at all. It's just like super collaborative.
Yeah.
It depends what it is. Like,
Yeah. So you were more on like this travel business is more Jack's idea. And then I don't know, I might
Yeah,
do
you're more beer at the start. At the
beer,
start,
More product. He's more product.
oh, honestly, nah. It's like
It's just different what
literally
we're
the
into.
same person, but we switch it around. It's wild.
And like we would like even skits, like he'll think of one, and then the next one I might think of the next one.
Yeah.
And it's just like just depends what we're doing.
Are you two like just naturally creative dudes? Like you're just sitting there thinking about all this shit all the
I
time.
think you in your head 24/7. It's a
Yeah.
great place to be.
And
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I
and
wouldn't
how
be
important is
scary.
it to live together like that? Like, so because effectively you guys are like, let's call it a startup, but it's a really successful startup. It's been going for years, but it's a successful startup. And you live together, you talk about all stuff, you're watching each other, you're throwing shit out in front of each other. What about this? What? And you got your other mates there who are probably involved in, you said involved in various business. If you're sitting there trying to today to map out for a young entrepreneur or young entrepreneurs who want to be successful, would you say that living together and working together and nearly like being one person
Like a
is
married
a really
couple.
like a married couple nearly? Is that
Yeah.
like is that? Do you reckon that's one of the non-negotiables in being successful for what you guys have done?
I think it's helped us a
A
lot.
lot. I think the work partnering up with someone can work so heavily in your favor if it's the right person.
Yeah.
But to find that right person is about 1 in 100. I mean, could be more, but like I don't. All of we got 10 of our best mates. We're all best friends. Like I'm just as close with all of my mates as I am with Falcon. But I don't think I could work with any of them, even though I love them. I could not do it. With the way we work together is just so unique, and it's taken a long time to get to a place of, it's a lot of like
How
the
much
str-
compromising you have to do? Though?
so much every day, like non-stop. You have
You feel like punching him in the head.
not that bad, but we disagree on heaps. But
Yeah.
if you don't come to a solution quick and get over it, then we have to find each other funny. We have to make business decisions together. We have to live together. We have to everything, drive the car together 24/7, like travel together. When the going's tough, you're together. When you disagree, you're together. So it's like you've just got to find. We've just figured it out over like all these years how to. And at the start, it was actually a bit different. I was a lot more dominant. Would you agree? And you were kind of just like going with the flow. And then now it's what we just said before. It's like 50-50 everything. It's so weird, but
Yeah, like on
we can-
business calls and stuff, Jack would definitely take the lead because I'm like a people pleaser. I really wouldn't want to like upset anyone, and they're kind of like harder to like, I wouldn't want to offend anyone and stuff. And then now I've kind of like, you kind of just realize business isn't, it's often personal.
It's not
You just got to fucking say what you want or how you want it to do it, and yeah. So I've learned from that. Like I need to like step up more.
So, but what have you guys learned about yourselves? Like, now, what have you been in business? How long now? 6, 7 years?
Yeah. 5, 6 years. 6 years.
Yeah.
Probably.
So, like sitting here as your 30-year-olds,
Yeah. Oh man.
what have you learned about yourselves?
I think at the start, like I was really like wasn't confident at all, always second guessing, like kind of just like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And whereas now we've been here for a bit longer, I feel a bit more confident in like, no, I kind of know what is the right decision with the beer. Like say, like, all right, no, we should do it like this, or we should do it like that. And like at the start, you wouldn't. You're just so unsure of yourself. But now we're a bit more sure of ourselves, and kind of even we just got new management, and you just know what you want and who you want to be around.
Yeah. I heard that someone saying a quote the other day of this woman. She does a lot of brand work in America for like the Kardashians and stuff, and she's very successful, runs her own business and stuff. And she was going into a meeting, and she was the CEO, but she was just freaking out all the time. And then her husband is also kind of like a mentor person. He was like, "You're walking in there with a
Employers.
employee mindset, not a CEO mindset."
Yeah.
And it just changed her straight away. She's like, "Oh my God, that's so true." And I feel like that is imposter syndrome in a way. And we've had that heaps, a lot, But then we've figured out now it's like from the start we've always made decisions to be long term. Always, like we've had a lot of offers with stuff, as you do if you've got a following, and we've always been like, nah, if it's not right, don't do it. If it doesn't, the gut feeling's not there, don't do it. And who we're going to business with is because they're a good person and we know them and we trust them, and they don't just have a flashy car and they're talking shit and they've got all this money. We don't give a shit about that. And we've always gone into business for that one reason. It never let us down. Even with like management, anything, it's not just the beer, it's like, or the travel company, it's
About the
TV
person.
shows, about anything we work on is about the person you're working with and the gut feeling of it's just them.
Because it honestly is like you're going into like a family. Like when you're doing business, it's like you become family because you're talking every day. So you need that person to be like, you want to gel with them or think they're a good person. And you want to win together. Like
their
you don't want to
values.
win with someone that you don't even like. Like you,
You got to like them.
exactly.
You got to like them, and you got
Yeah.
to know their values are in place, and they're not just fake. Because a lot of people try and they showboat, and then you can kind of sit down with lunch with them, and you're like, oh wow, this could be cool. They're like, yeah, you can do whatever you want, have all this money, blah blah blah. And then you kind of like suss him out for a bit, and you're like, you're a fucking tosser.
Yeah,
You're not real at all. You're a fraud. Like
yeah,
you're fake.
yeah.
And then 6 months later, you realize something someone tells you, like, oh my god, we're lucky we didn't do that. And
So yeah, for a 30-year-old though, that's pretty amazing to be able to have experience enough, have experience enough to be able to say, who's a tosser and who's a fake and a fraud. Like that's pretty cool. Like not many people get to do that at 30.
Yeah,
Or
I
have
know.
done it by 30.
Just feel like we've been surrounded by such good people growing up in a hometown, and like a small coastal town of
Yeah.
good family and friends. So you kind of know how to read people and who's fake. And we've always had a strong friend group where we weren't chopping and changing friends every day. So you're like,
Do your friends tip you? Say that person ain't good.
We're a pretty good judge of character.
yeah, I
I
feel like we
think.
all know.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we all kind of know, and we're lucky we blew up mid-20s and not 18, because we wouldn't be this smart. We're not smart at all, but like in the sense of what you're talking about, like
Yeah.
we wouldn't have any idea. We'd just be like, yeah, we'll do whatever. Whereas we blew up later on. We'd been tradies for years and years and years, and we'd been humbled, and we knew what we didn't want to go back to. And so we were like, this has got to be long term, and we've got to make sure of it. And how we make sure of it is reading people and making sure we're not just going to buy a dream that someone sells to you. That's fake.
Michelle Payne, welcome to Straight Talk.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And you love racing. You love horse racing. You love winning. You just love the sport generally. It's in your blood. You've been brought up with it. It is so powerful that pretty much nothing is going to stop you from doing it, whether it's fear, the danger, the fact that you're female, the odds are against you, even getting the ride in the first place. Whether you got to look after your weight, you've had a number of falls. Is that always overriding everything else? The fact that I love this sport and that's what I want to do.
Yeah. It's
That's
so fun.
So much conviction towards it,
Yeah.
and it's fun. Is it just because it's fun, or is this is me? I define myself, Michelle Payne. I am a jockey, and I win races.
To be honest, I always thought after riding I could go on and do something else. So many things. I don't think that's definitive, but it was something that I found a passion in and loved. And I think how lucky I was to live a life of excitement like that. The feeling that you get when you cross the line, you've really helped that horse to achieve and win the race, and all the owners, the amount of effort the trainers put in, the staff at home, everything that's involved, and to see the happiness on their faces when you come back in, you can't put a price on that. It's unbelievable, and to have a job where you go to work and you're excited and it's so fun. Like it's not a job. Even though you're basically starving yourself and you're exercising off no energy because you can't eat much, and sometimes you might be lying on the couch and think I cannot be bothered to get up and go for a run, but you just got to will yourself and get out there, because if you don't make the weight or you're not fit enough, you don't have a job. So I just count myself so lucky to have found a passion that I could be so excited about.
How big a part of being successful is actual fitness? Like I guess we're talking about aerobic fitness, like grip strength, probably pretty important. Strengthen your legs to be able to stay on the horse. How important is that in terms of like your regime or during the week and before the race? So I'm assuming you're racing on a Saturday. So like, let's say the big race is coming up in a month. Do you, like a fighter, you sort of say, okay, I've got a month to get ready for this really big race, so I'm going to go into a proper environment now. I'm going to do this every single day of the week. If you've got like a ritual you go through for that month, for example, before the Melbourne Cup or before whatever big event you're going to go in?
I think if you want to be a jockey and achieve at the top level, you've got to dedicate your life to it. One thing I learned, which I took away from my falls, was that you have to have a balance. From a young age, I was so determined to do well. I didn't want to take any holidays. I was just wanting to do, well and not risk having time away that I get forgotten about, or all the hard work you put in would go to waste. But having the falls, you had no choice. You were forced to have that time, and I travelled, got to see the world, and realised that there was something in that, and really thought maybe that happened for a reason. Maybe it showed me that there's more to life than riding and racing every day. And From then, I sort of tried to take a holiday every winter when I could, and basically nearly every winter from that went somewhere different in the world and explored and travelled and grew in myself. A lot of the time on my own because I thought that would be a better way to do it. You meet people, you're forced to. So it's all about the balance, but then when you're in it, you're totally in it. You don't hardly can go out for dinner. I didn't get to see my friends from school nearly all of my teenage years because I was so dedicated to the job. But you want to do well, you have to do well, and that's getting up early. You've got to do the work behind the scenes to get the opportunities, to get the race rides, to get your fitness up. There's only so much fitness you can get from track work because it's not like under race pressure. You're obviously training the horse, you're holding them, your position's in the same point, but there's no nerves you're dealing with, adrenaline. There's nothing like race fitness, but you can help yourself at home by doing. I found for me the best way. I'm definitely not a very good athlete, so I had to train harder. Lots of high intensity work, sprint work, short, sharp intervals, just any basic strength work that related to riding. You didn't want to be using false muscles, so you didn't want to be building muscles that weren't going to help your riding. So
train specific
exactly, yep,
for what your sport is.
exactly, and that's like a lot of core strength, obviously a lot of arm strength, chin ups. Really have to use all your muscles in your body, really. When you're in that riding position and you're holding the horse, you're using everything without your knowledge even. So with that, you've got to be very agile because you want to be a part of the horse. You don't want them to even know you're on them. You don't want to be like you go for a run and you got some keys in your pocket, sort of unbalancing your stride or whatever. You want to be with them as one so that you can get the best out of them. So for me, the best way I found was to do the track work that you had to do. Sometimes we had to do too much. Like, for example, some days I'd ride 20 horses in the morning and before you go to the races. That was an extreme.
Before you go to the races?
Yeah, that was an extreme day, like one of, the toughest. Usually it'd be 5 to 10 or 15. And then you might have a little workout at home, have a little sauna or a spa to lose the weight that you needed to lose. Sometimes you felt better if you had that anyway, even if you didn't have to lose weight because your body was more prepared. I found it helped me. And then, yeah, off to the races. But as I got older and didn't have to ride as much track work to get the opportunity, this probably more post Melbourne Cup, I realised it was easier to have a balance of track work, training yourself, and then going to the races. So one of the toughest things about being a female rider is you had to really work hard behind the scenes. That's why I was riding 20 horses a morning to get the opportunities, but you're buggered by the time you get to the races. There's only so much exercise and work your body and your muscles can do, especially on very limited food. So all those things you just have to work out and learn along the way. And you have to really want it because you can't maintain that kind of lifestyle otherwise.
If we could just talk quickly about the Melbourne Cup win, Prince of Penzance, do you remember the first time you met the Prince of Penzance, met the horse, and did you feel an immediate empathy towards that animal?
I'm not even joking. The first time I saw him was at a real little country track called Colac. We were doing trials. I was coming back from another injury. And I said to his trainer, Darren, I was like, that's a nice horse. He was just on the other side of the mounting yard. And he said, yeah, he's really nice.
What's a nice horse mean from
Just
your point of view?
An athlete. You look
Yeah.
at it, you can see it in 3 seconds. Gee, that
Right.
horse moves well. Like everything works together. It's got a nice big deep girth, which means it's got big lungs, big heart can fit in there. Everything's just efficient, and you could just tell the way he walked, and he was bold. He was really bold and wanted to get
Which
on.
means, sorry, bold means?
Wanted to get on with the job. Like
Yes.
he was bought by a guy called John Foote who bought him because he said he'd run through a brick wall. He was that bold kind of horse. He said, yeah, no, he's a really nice horse. You can see how it goes. So I was trialing him this day. He hadn't had a race at this point, and we were later in the day and a bit unusual, but the track got a bit slippery as the day went on, and we were out wider. So usually on the course is a camber, but because we were out so wide, the camber was running down the other way. As we were rounding the corner with the greasy ground, he slipped and lost his balance. And I swear I felt my knee nearly touch the ground because he went down that far, but he picked himself back up and he's just so athletic, and I hadn't come off him, and got himself back into stride in a few strides, picked up, sprinted and galloped to the line and finished second. And I was like, oh my God, what is this horse? Because they just don't do that. And he said, yeah, he is a nice horse. So he tried to keep with him because I thought he was pretty special. You know, you don't come across that very, very often in your career. And I've said many times, like through my riding career, I rode 7,500 races and probably over 30,000 horses, even more in track work, and probably 5 in a lifetime gave you that X factor feel. And he did that right from the start. His very first trial that I rode. So he was just a remarkable horse, an unbelievable athlete, had a will to win, to want to do it, sometimes too much. He wanted to overdo it. So I think we were a good balance, being sort of soft touch with him and kind, and, you know, always talking to him, patting him and stuff like that. So yeah, it was just an unbelievable journey, and to think I come across a horse like that later in my career.
So when you win something as famous in Australia as the Melbourne Cup, and probably even globally in the horse racing world, like, what's the deal? Like, is the race when it's over and you can see you won? Is it a bit of an anticlimax because most of the thrill is during the race, or is it as big a thrill when they sort of announce that you're the winner when you know you won? But where's the thrill lie? In the race itself and winning it, actually taking him through to win, or is it when it's all over and it's relief? Where's the biggest thrill?
Honestly, I sit here right now today and can tell you it gives me like butterflies in my stomach to think that I'd still have been lucky enough to win, a great race. It was a dream of mine from a 5-year-old. So to think 25 years later, I was able to cross that line in front on him, it blows me away. So honestly, I can't say the feelings died down. It was an absolute whirlwind from the moment I got off.
I can see in your face, you're still smiling.
Yeah. And it's amazing to think that one race can change your life like it has. Obviously, film being made, second book that I've written, been part of writing with a writer, and yeah, just incredible. Like, honestly, can't believe it.
Did it change your world much? I mean, apart from all the opportunities you obviously get, apart from the fact you now stand for something in relation to horse racing with women involved in horse racing, particularly as jockeys. But how did it affect your life? Was it, apart from the obvious positives, many negatives come with that sort of stuff, like being in the limelight? How do you feel about that?
I sort of been prepared for the limelight through my career, just with earlier successes. So I was pretty okay with that.
As in media?
Yeah,
Yeah.
with media. Sort of being stopped on the street become something I struggled with because I'm a pretty private person. As a jockey, you're self-employed, you're really focused, you're busy at your job. You keep to yourself, pretty quiet because usually you're hungry, so you don't have much conversation.
Got no energy to talk.
It's taken away your personality. So I found that really tough, challenging. But the way I looked at it is you got to take the good with the bad. People were lovely everywhere I went. Congratulations. It was so exciting. I'm so inspired by your win. I couldn't believe it. The amount of good feeling that I got from it, and people's reaction. So yeah, it was tough, but like I said, sorry. People were amazing and just blew me away, but I got tired also, so I just had to go home and rest a lot of the time because it was just a bit overwhelming to take on.
You sort of like have to perform a little bit when you do something really good, and everybody sort of wants to acknowledge it and hold you up on a bit of a pedestal.
Well, that was one thing, sorry. The people used to be so excited when they met me, and I feel like I let them down because I was like, thanks very much.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be impressive right then and there, so I found it quite tough at the time that I was letting them down. They're like, oh my God, but what you did was so exciting. And again, I'd say thank you very much. And they'd say it again sometimes, and I'd be like, I can't say anything more than thanks very much. Like, I felt the pressure to live up to their excitement. That was really draining and tough.
John Lawsy, welcome to Straight Talk, mate.
G'day, Mark. How are you doing?
Do you worry about where everybody's going to vote for someone like Trump to put him in by such a big majority?
No, I don't worry about it. because it's going to be a long time before it affects Australia. And I think Australia is a very strong country. And I don't think we'll accept anything that we don't choose to accept. I don't think we'll be overrun by the whims of Donald Trump.
I read somewhere that you have interviewed 17 prime ministers. I get excited when I interview 2. You've interviewed 17 prime ministers, Australian prime
I
ministers.
think it's more than 17. No, 17.
And of which twice was Kevin Rudd. In those 17 prime ministers, is there any standouts that you rate?
Oh yeah. Paul Keating is a standout.
Why?
Larrikin.
As
What a great brain.
Yeah, got plenty going on up there in the grey matter.
Great brain. Malcolm Fraser I admired greatly and spent a lot of time with Malcolm Fraser. Most of them I've got on very well with. Gough Whitlam, I had a New Year's Eve with Gough Whitlam in Paris, in his palatial Paris home. He and my wife at that time and Margaret and Gough all had New Year's Eve together, which was great. Yes, I've known a lot of prime ministers, and I've been very close to quite a few prime ministers.
If we look at Paul Keating, because he went to my school actually, he was a few years ahead of me, but he was as I recall it, I don't know what it was, the head of the Student Representative Council. Even in those days, he was sort of very, much aware of unionism and sort of, what should be done in relation to making things better at the university, at the school. But Paul was always really smart at school. Like, it was well known that Paul Keating was one of the smart kids at school. In terms of his policy in Australia, he was big between 1987 and 1996. Do you think that Paul was too honest for his own good? And why I say that is because I remember 2 things that he said that were turned against him. The first was, this is the recession we had to have.
Yeah.
And on your
show. He said that on my show.
And he also said on your show something about the Banana Republic.
Yeah, he said that on my show too.
But over time, they were used against him. The media then turned those around, and I think anyway, and I think one of the reasons he lost the election as Prime Minister, when he was Prime Minister, was largely because of his intellectual honesty and no regard for what the fallout might be by being intellectually honest, because he had a huge intellect, he still does, obviously. Whereas today, you never hear prime ministers saying anything that's even slightly dangerous. Not even slightly dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, John Howard certainly wasn't a wuss, was he? He said what he wanted to say and said it pretty well. I admired and still do admire John Howard. And I admired and do admire Paul Keating. Paul Keating had a brain like a steel trap. He was onto everything. He was very highly, highly intelligent. Still is, I presume. I don't see him much these days.
I had lunch with him, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and we had it in a place in Bondi, and he's quite amazing. He pulled out a photocopy of a newspaper, Financial Review, front page, with a note on it written in his writing, and he showed it to me. I don't know how he kept it. It was from 1996 or 1995 or something like that. The paper was back in, it was 20 years before I'd seen him, but he was able to find this because we're going to have lunch. And on it was a reference to his economic policy about deregulation. And sort of the point he was trying to make was, one of the reasons my business was very successful, lending money to people to buy houses, was because of his change in economic policy. And it's true, what he said was true. But my point is, he's so smart and so intellectually organised that he knew how to put his hand on this photocopy of this front page of the Financial Review, quoting him back in 1996. Like, that's scary smart.
Yeah.
And I don't think most people give him the credit for being as smart as or as intellectually voluminous as he was. And I don't think we have anybody in the last 10 years who
No,
gets
I'm
anywhere
sure.
near him.
Don't underestimate John Howard.
No, I can't remember how far back John goes now, but definitely John Howard is up there, definitely. And Peter Costello in terms of his portfolio too, definitely. But they were more, they were 2000 and between 2000 and 2005, I think. Yeah, maybe they're definitely the last 20 years Howard's been around. But past that, I don't know if we've really had anybody who had that sort of
Well, I don't think we have either.
bandwidth.
You know, I don't think we have either. We've had, yeah. I'm trying to think of somebody.
Rudd?
No, thank you.
Morrison?
No.
Albanese?
Morrison, no.
Albanese?
Yeah, interesting character, Albanese. Very, very nice man.
Everyone seems to love him as a bloke. I don't really know him. Everyone tells me that he's a good person, a good bloke. I wonder whether or not he's got a massive machine behind him, though, which is trying to please everybody. Because, I mean, the Labor Party is a pretty tough environment to be in, especially with the unions.
I think he's a pretty safe sort of fellow, Albanese. You know, I think that you can count on him. I don't think he vacillates a great deal, whereas a lot of politicians do by necessity because they go with the crowd.
That's very interesting because I wonder whether or not politics has become about popularist. What's popular? You know, like, what is popular? And are we just voting for what's popular today? Because the average voter doesn't really. I don't know. We don't. The average voter, not older people like me, but the average voter, the younger voter, they just go with what's in it for me sort of thing. You're been an observer of people for a long, long time. What do you think about the average voter today and politics generally? I mean,
I think a lot of the average voters today couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know, I think that they're very laissez-faire about voting. It's something that is an accepted way of life.